Today I'll show you how to build this all-in-one modern A-frame tech base in ARK Survival Ascended. You'll need a fair bit of space to build this one because it is a rather big base, but it is supposed to serve you well in the end game with loads of space inside, whether you want to do a lot of breeding or you just need all of that room to stow away everything that you find on your ARK adventures. If you like to live in a base that has a modern and sleek design, I'm sure you'll find that this is everything that you need. Hello there survivors, and welcome back to another build tutorial in ARK Survival Ascended. I built this one on Lost Colony, but of course you can build this wherever you find the space. Preferably, of course, a bit of flat land, but you can technically also make this work with some ceilings and pillars if you need to straighten out the world a little bit yourself. As you can see, I've used some custom cosmetics. The advantage of that is that you don't actually need to build it out of tech if you don't want to or you can't. You can also, of course, easily build this out of metal or any other structure. But all the cosmetics that I used are completely free, so you can easily install them. I've mostly used Architecture's Paradise, as well as a little bit of the Modern Structures and the LF Seamless skin. This base is a real all-in-one base meant for the end game with loads of space inside, whether you want to do a bunch of breeding, lots of storage or crafting available, whatever you want, you have it all in here with a big hangar at the bottom meant for breeding, but of course also totally fine if you want to use it in other ways, with the connective building in the middle to reach all of the different layers and plenty of space on the top of the A-frames for your bedroom, but also all of your crafting and storage needs. And of course, a nice big deck in the middle on top of the middle section where you can park flyers, but there's also a small little A-frame greenhouse there so that you can also grow your crops. If you want to see a full tour of the base, I've already made that video. You can watch that first if you want to decide whether this base is something for you or you need some inspiration on how to skin and how to decorate the inside. As always, if you enjoy seeing videos like this and you want to continue to see more, make sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and of course feel free to leave your suggestions for future builds you'd like to see down in the comments below. Of course, the first step is going to be to lay down your foundations, and in this case there's quite a lot of foundations needed. To be exact, it is a 16 by 46 build, so it is rather big. So you have a 16 wide and a 46 long build, which means you do need to find quite a good spot to build it on to be able to fit this all. But of course, what you could do is start on the highest point where you think you're going to be able to lay down the most foundations. If there's then some areas where you can't make it fit, you could always extend by ceilings and use pillars as supports and yeah, make it work that way, because of course it's going to be a little bit tricky to find a big flat spot that can fit all of the foundations perfectly. There certainly are these spots here and there, but yeah, it's going to be a little bit more effort to find the right spot. But with ceilings and pillars, you can still get the support you need. So just make sure that you can get this entire shape placed down, whether it's completely out of foundations, whether it's a combination of foundations and pillars, or whether it's maybe all pillars and ceilings. It's all fine. If you're wondering where I build here on Lost Colony, the coordinates are right over here, so it's right on the edge of the world, but there's some really nice big flat areas here, as you can see by the fact that I've already placed the whole base there, and I have space for another one right next to it. It's all foundations, this one, so yeah, if you look for it, there's definitely areas where you can build them, but it's going to be a little bit of effort. And once you have the foundations in, it's best to start with a little bit of a guideline by laying down some starts for the A-frames. So here on the corner, we want to start. We want to make this 3 wide, and we want to bring this up by 10 in total. So this whole thing is going to go up by 10 in total just to get the right height on it. And yeah, that means we can just keep bringing this up until we are 10 high. And of course, that also means that we can bring it down by these 3 on the other side, just to get the shape of the first A-frame, trying to not misplace any of these. And of course, I'm building out of tech today just to make it last, but you could definitely also use metal or any other material, especially if you choose to skin the base. because, well, then it doesn't really matter anyway. Here on the front, we actually want to extend this by one more. And we can do the same thing over here at this end, making sure that we extend all of these into the ground if it lets you. Then we can come over here to the other side, and again, we're going to go 3 wide, and we're going to build the same A-frame shape. So go up by, 10 in total, just to get this shape in right. So we can keep going up until we've made it up 10 in total. Which of course also means that on the other side, we can start bringing this all down by 10 as well. So that we have, at least on the front of the building, the 2 A-frames ready as kind of our guidelines and our shape. So yeah, we can build this all the way down. And again, here on the front, we can continue that one. And here at the very end, of course, we can do the same thing. And that will kind of give us some indication of the whole shape of the building, as you can see with these 2 big A-frames and then the little section there in the middle. We actually want to come over here to the side, and we can actually build this first layer as well as the layer next to the foundation. So going into the ground, basically, we can build that all the way over to the opposite side of the build, just to get these sides in and to shape up the building a little bit more. And then here at the end, we can once again build up these 3 wide roofs all the way to the top to again get the shape of the A-frame already a little bit in place, which will just kind of help us with the rest of the building. And of course, on the other side, we can then bring this down again the same way. And the good thing about the A-frame is, of course, that even if you don't have the new Wisp skill unlocked, so you can have creative flight and survival, you can still walk up the A-frame quite easily. Like the roofs, you can just keep walking up, which makes it a lot more convenient during building, of course, that it is a lot easier to kind of go around the building. We want to then also extend this side of the build, so again, all the way from one side to the other, laying down these roofs as the shape of our A-frame. We're just going to do the bottom layer first, a little bit easier, and then we can do this layer all the way till the end. And then of course we can keep this one going, bring this up to be 10 high, just so that it matches the rest of the shapes. There we go. Which also means that we can go to the other side, of course, and we can, again, bring this all the way back down. And that should give us a pretty clear idea of where the exact A-frames are going to be. And that will help us shape up the rest of the build pretty easily. So again, we want to make sure that we extend this all the way down into the ground. We do have a little bit of landscape here in the way, not to worry about that. Here in the middle, we're actually going to remove 5 of these foundations, and we can change them for some stairs going on top of the platform. And we also want to have stairs all the way along the front here. So we just want to go from one side to another, making these ways so that we can reach the inside of the A-frame, of course. So we'll do the same thing here on the other side. So stairs all the way along the edge of our foundations, just like that. And then of course on the opposite side we can do the same. So again, the middle 4 foundations here we can remove, we can replace them with our stairs. And then inside here of the A-frame we also can add our stairs all the way along the outside here. And of course that means we have one more A-frame left here where we can do the exact same thing. And we can bring these all the way along the side here. Then we can take out our roofs again, and here on the inside we can actually add 5 more roofs down below. Same over here on the other side. We want to add 5 more in total, so we have a gap of 2 left over in the middle, which means of course we can do the exact same thing here on the opposite side. And that is where we're going to have the entrances to connect it to different layers and connect it to the building that will be in the middle. And after these initial two, we want to actually start raising up these two all the way to the top layer. So again, this is going to help us shape up the rest of the building. So we want to bring this all the way to the same height as the rest of the roof. And obviously we'll do the same thing over here. Bring this all the way up to be the same height. Give, again, more structure to our A-frame and prepare us to build the middle section of the building. So yeah, we have these still left over. So 4 in the middle and then a gap 2 here on the sides. And of course, we want to do the exact same thing over at the opposite A-frame. So we're also going to bring up these roofs all the way to the top. And we can do the exact same thing again over here. Just replicating what we've done a few times now. Just bringing these roofs up all the way to the top. And now it's time to start shaping up this middle section. So we can take out a large wall here and we can place it right there. So next to where we just brought up these extra sections. And of course, we can do that on all of the different sides here. So we want to bring up these just like that. And then we can kind of expand this with normal walls. So we want to have 3 there, 2 there, and 1 over here. And then the same over at this side, and of course on the opposite side the exact same thing. So we're basically shaping this part to the A-frame. We can then have our slope walls, of course, to fill in those gaps. That should connect up these walls. There we go. And then also here on the front, of course, we'll just kind of follow this shape all the way along. There we go. And then we can actually go across the top here with all walls, and it kind of creates a nice big window shape. But we want, or at least I want, a window that I can also open to use as a door if I want to. So what we'll do first, we'll lay down some pillars here as kind of support. So we want to have some pillars along the sides as well as here in the middle actually. And then we can have some beams going across the top. So we'll do that again over here. We'll have our pillars along the sides and of course have the pillars there in the middle. Now, instead of just having normal walls that will skin to be a window or use greenhouse glass or whatever you want to use, what I want to use is actually the secret tech doorways, and then we can fill in this entire window with those. Because now, when I skin them, we'll have all windows, but we can still use this as doors. Now, of course, you can just use them as a normal door like this. But what you can also do, if you add a keypad here with a code, and you make sure that the same code is applied to the entire window, with one press of the keypad, all of them will open at the same time as some big windows. So just to demonstrate over here where we already have the power, so we have the keypad here. So if I press the code, which is just all zeros, you'll see all of the window panels will open at the same time. Only on this side, because the opposite side I gave a different code. And then this is how you could use it as a doorway. And once you're done and you want to close them, you go here to deactivate. And then you just press the same code and they will close the doors again. So that is how you can use these windows as a door at the same time. So yeah, obviously we're going to install that. It's a really neat trick Sarge showed to me. And yeah, definitely makes for some nice and interesting windows that you can still use as doors. But if you're in a hurry, you can also just open a door like normal, of course. But yeah, there we go. We have 2 big windows on both sides of this little bridging build. Then here on the inside, wherever the front of your building is, for me that's this side, we'll go to the back wall here and we'll build up some stairs to go to the next layer inside of the building. So we'll have 4 stairs over here and the same thing over there. So we'll have 2 staircases basically going up to the next layer so we can easily reach that. And now that we have that in place, we can actually start adding in some ceilings. First of all, here on the outside, we want to expand this by 2 wide. So we'll go all along the front over here adding in these ceilings, and then we can also of course bring them across, connecting up to the staircase here. And then again on this side also we'll bring it out by 2 in total. So we'll bring this all the way across to the other side here, connect it all up, and then bring it across again to fill in this hallway. So basically this is going to be another layer. Here above the stairs we want to give it a gap of 2 so that you have plenty of space to kind of walk up without feeling like you're like bouncing your head against the ceilings above. So yeah, we want to just continue to fill this in. Again, leave a gap of 2 over there and then go all the way along here. And here at the top we can actually go around it with some railings so that the staircases are nicely secured here. But yeah, this will be our way up to the next layer. So nice and central, 2 staircases up so you can reach all the upper layers of the actual A-frame. Then we want to take out our walls right over here. So the final ceiling, we want to raise them up by 3 high and of course build them off sidewards into the A-frame. We'll do the exact same thing over here, build that in like that. We can do the exact same thing again on the opposite side of the building, of course. And this is kind of mirroring what we've done below, but just on a, well, different and smaller scale, because this is only 3 high instead of 4. We can add in our slope walls here. We do the same over here on the opposite side, of course, and on the front of the building. We can just kind of make sure that all of these shapes will now fit in. And once we've done that, we can actually add in our pillars here at the sides. Oh, not over there. Over here. And of course, same over on the opposite side. Same over there. And then we can bring out our beams across the bottom here of the window section, which is going to be the middle, so not over there on the sides. We can do the same thing here on the opposite side. Make sure that we have the beam going all the way across. Now, in that case, we can just kind of start filling in the rest of the walls. These are going to be windows, but since we don't really need to be able to open them here, we can just use our regular walls and then skin them to our window skin. There we go. So now we want to change all this so that we can see through and we know exactly where the windows are going to be, which is, of course, quite nice because we'll keep the natural light on the inside. Then we want to bring out our pillars again, and every 2 walls, oh, not every 1 wall, every 2 walls, we want to add in a pillar going up. Just like that, and that will be our nice front window here, which means we can do the same thing here over on the opposite side. So again, we want to bring out our walls, and we want to start going all the way across, filling in this wall from one side to the next. There we go. Then of course we can change these to the windows so that we can see through it and we can get all the natural light still inside of the building, which is of course the main advantage for working with these modern designs. Oh no, no, don't go too far with these modern designs and the big windows. Then of course we also want to introduce the pillars on this side, so every 2 walls we want to add in a nice pillar, and there we go. And then actually here along the front we can extend this by 1 more layer of ceiling. So we just want to go along this edge, basically to make sure that this isn't a flat wall, and we have this as a nice ending. But then we can also bring this all the way across, and we can actually start filling in the roof of this part, which will not only give us a lot of extra space, but is also where eventually we add a nice little greenhouse on the top if you want to. But of course, it's also a great place to park flyers, etc. Because you have a bunch of extra flat space on the roof here that we of course do not have on any of the rest of the build. So yeah, we just want to go around and add in all of these ceilings, which also makes the middle part of this building pretty much complete, at least the main structures that we have now worked on. And if you're doing this in survival, it shouldn't be too difficult to make this kind of secure if you temporarily have to live out this part, for example. But yeah, for now, we're going to build a bunch of ceilings here, place down all of these ceilings to fix this this roof. So yeah, we want to just bring across this last side here. And then we should have covered this bridge between the two A-frames. So yeah, that's kind of the connecting piece that connects one side to the other, but also is your way up to the next layers. Now that we have that complete, from the top here, we can kind of start bringing down our roofs all the way to fill this in, but then we can start changing them. So right over here, we want to have one layer before we change it into a window, and then we want to leave these top 4 as normal roofs. So we have a nice big window letting in some light into the A-frame here. Then we can also start filling up everything above this layer again. And here we kind of want to do the same thing. We want to make sure that we change all of that to a nice window so that there is plenty of light coming in to the main A-frame structure. So it looks like we haven't placed anything there, but we now know there's in fact windows here. And yeah, we can do the same thing over here. So we can actually just fill this in all the way. But I find it's easier to do it up to this part first. And then we can change the skins, because then we know that these 4 need to stay. We can change this to a nice window. And then we can do the top part here, where we add in these roofs, and we can change these to a window now. And now that we've done that on the front of the build, it also of course means that we can do the exact same thing here over at the other side of the building. So again, we can just kind of bring all of these roofs in from one side to the other. And then we can add in the window. For now, we'll remove this side. Then we'll leave these 4 open. And then we can, once again, add a window in over here. And then one more side to do. We want to fill this all in so that there's nothing left to be done on those sides. Like, those are all the same after we've done these. Add in the window there. And add in the window right over here. There we go. So some nice clean windows giving you some light in the main A-frames themselves, which means we are pretty much done here. So before we start working on the actual A-frames, let's make sure that we kind of finish up this area, except the greenhouse. We'll do that as last. But for now, we want to start adding in some railings around the end here, of course, so that if you use this rooftop, you're not just going to fall off when you walk around it. So yeah, we want to just kind of go along the entire edge here and add in these railings from one side to the other. And then of course we can do the same thing on the opposite side. Bring these all the way across. There we go. And that's not the only part we can already do. We can also take out our slab walls here, and we can build them up like this. So leave the last one there. And we can do the same over here. So we create this little shape. We'll do that on all sides, of course. So we want to have it there. And we want to have it here. There we go. So it kind of creates a little shape already. We then also want to take out our ceilings. We can actually go out like this, go all the way round and bring it back, and then actually also start to fill this in all the way. We can then also fill in this entire top of the roof. And the middle two here, we want to actually change to a window, and then we can also change the inside of this shape to window. So we have a nice skylight letting in some light. But of course, we need to build the rest of the structure. So here we want to have a pillar come down. Same over there. We can then take out some walls. We can have some walls going in a shape like this. Have some quarter walls here, quarter walls there, and then create a nice doorway here. With, of course, an actual door in there too. So then we want to take out our clear glass. We can skin all of the front over here. And then we can fill in the sides. So we want to have a wall there. We'll have another wall over here. And then, of course, add in slope walls around it. And you might be wondering why we're doing it like this. Because these are still going to be windows. And that is going to be the support of the build. So there we go. We have a nice window leading into the building. And of course, that is the same thing that we want to build over at this other side. So again, we want to bring out our ceilings. And we want to start filling in this shape until we connect it back up to the A-frame. We can fill in the final roofs up here. Make sure that the middle two turn into a window. And we can turn this all into glass to get that nice skylight. And then once again, we'll build our entrance here. So we want to have these pillars there. We want to have a wall on both sides. We want to have some slope walls to finish that wall. Change those to our windows. And then we want to fill in the front here. So we want to shape up the entrance. Add in our quarter walls. Add in the double door. Take out the tech door itself. And then change it all to glass to get the nice look for it. And especially I like that these doors still have the tech effect, but they are made out of glass. Just a little bit cleaner in my opinion. And with that, we basically covered these insides that are facing each other of the A-frame. And of course, we have the connecting building. Now, of course, we need to make the actual A-frames themselves and finish the internal stairs and layers that we'll have available. But it's already off to a pretty good start now. Okay, we can take out those slope walls, go to the corner of the building here, and we can start adding in some supports here. So we kind of just want to go up like this. We're counting the outsides ones, so the ones that are connected to the roof. So we have 4 now. We have 5, and at our 6th one, we actually want to bring out our walls. So over here, what we do is we go all the way from one side to the other. And then, of course, we have another slope wall. We can still continue up the top here. So continue this shape all the way. Just like this. And, of course, on the other side, we still want to bring this beam down. Because this is going to be part of the supportive beams that our A-frame will have to make it look all a little bit nicer. So now that we have this, we want to make sure that underneath these walls, we want to add in some ceilings, and also here above them, of course, all the way across from one side to the other. We can then, of course, also add in some roofs here for the top part, and we can also bring in some roofs here for the bottom part, because these are going to be proper support beams to give the whole A-frame a little bit more structure and make sure that it looks a little bit nicer. So now from the outside, this will already look like a proper support, kind of an ARK logo, I guess, as well. It's a big A after all. And then we can also, of course, fill in the inside here. So we can start by adding in all of these walls, and then, of course, just kind of following the same shape as we did before to create these support beams. And we want to do that all the way. Bring this all the way back down this side. We don't actually need to do the last one there because we won't see it anyway, so might as well save the structure. And then, of course, this side will do the exact same thing. So bring that all the way down. Then over here at the sides, you could use secret doorways if you may want to hide something behind it. But otherwise, we want to have 4 walls over here. And we'll have 4 walls over at the other side there. Then we can leave a gap of 1. We can have 4 more walls. Another gap of 1. And then we should be able to have 4 more. We'll do the exact same thing here on the other side, of course. So 4 walls here. Gap of 1. We'll have 1 wall here. And 1 wall there. Now, of course, once we go all the way to the other side, we can also add in these beams. So we want to bring this all the way up. just as we did before and kind of just repeat the process. So yeah, we want to make sure that we have the beam going across both sides, and of course have these supports come all the way down. And then also here at the top, of course, you want to still continue them all the way to the top so that we have the proper supports for this A-frame. So then again, we'll do the exact same thing. We'll add in our ceilings along the inside here. Same over here at the top. And then we can add in the roofs again, making sure that these supportive beams are strong enough to support the entire build. Well, I mean, they don't need to be strong enough, of course, but they look strong enough at least to support the entire build, which makes the build look a lot nicer than just having no supportive beams and just a straight on wall. So now we can, of course, fill in the inside here too. So we want to bring up these slope walls all the way over here, and of course continue them up at the top. Fill in the rest of the shape, basically just doing what we did on the front. So once you've done it once, it should really be quite straightforward on how to do it for the other ones. So we'll do that all the way down there. And then we can take out our walls and fill in the inside over here. So now that we have those, we kind of have the start of our two opposite walls here. We first of all want to start looking at these sides. So what we want to do first here, after a gap of 2, we can bring up all these roofs all the way to the top over here. So we just want to make sure that it meets up all the way here with the other side, and we can actually make this 3 wide in total. So we can go those all the way down again, and then here again we want to do the same thing. So bring up these 3 roofs all the way up to the top, which of course will give the A-frame its proper shape. Now the first 3 we can fill in over here, and of course that is going to be a window to match up with what we've done on the other side. So we'll do the same thing here. The top 3 layers will turn into a nice window here, and then once more we'll turn this into a lovely window. There we go. Which means we can fill in this bit in between with these 4 roofs, 4 more roofs over here, so 2 wide, and then the same over here on the other side, which also means we can start filling in the rest of this shape, so we can turn it into a nice window. So then these ones we want to turn into a window, keep these 4 in between, of course, and we can do this for all of these sections. So kind of just matching the windows that we already made on the other side, and ensuring that there's going to be plenty of light within the A-frame to see whatever you're doing in there, whether it's crafting, whether it's breeding, doesn't really matter. It's always nice to have some natural light flowing into the base. So this is going to be the outside of the A-frame here. But it also means that we can now continue to shape up the inside, because what we want to do, and that's why we have these gaps here, is also have the supportive beams here in the middle of these roof sections. So again, we want to kind of bring this all the way up, and then of course this one layer here will be the one where we have the walls going across from one side to the other, and then these supports are of course also coming back down here on this side. Oops, making sure they connect back up to what we have. We can of course do that for both sides here. So we want to bring this all the way across, create this beam from one side to the other, and keep that going, basically just to kind of shape up these A-frame holes. And of course don't forget that we also want to do that all the way up here. Oops, filling in these A-frames, and then we can do the same thing over here. bringing it all the way back across. And then of course we can start filling in these shapes. So we have the ceilings up and down here, making sure that we create a nice beam. And then of course finally we have the roofs, so that we actually have our supports fully created. So we can do it over here too. And then finally, of course, this top layer, we want to fill that in all the way. So we have another supportive beam there, giving more structure to this entire A-frame. And then one more on this side of the build. We want to bring this all the way up. And of course, also again across with the normal walls. And then we can do the same over here. Bring this all the way across. Oops. And, well, yeah, basically it's just following up with the same kind of shapes for each of these sides, of course. Making sure that we have some nice supportive beams going along the entirety of the inside of this A-frame, shaping it up, kind of creating some natural dividers as well, which is quite nice for your interior once you get to that. So yeah, just finally bringing these all the way across, of course. There we go. Then we can add in our ceilings here. And then, of course, below as well. And the same over on this side. And there we go. So yeah, we have the supports all the way complete, and you can see that really helps shape up this hole. Of course, we'll have an entire floor upstairs, but for now, it already adds a lot of shape to the building. I mean, you can instantly already tell the difference if you see the A-frame on the right and the A-frame on the left. The definitely one with supports looks a lot nicer in my opinion. Now, before we continue, we want to make sure that we add all of these same beams, so all 4 of these on the other side too, as well as make sure that we copy the roof over. So yeah, for the roof, it's quite easy to start with. Technically, of course, we can just kind of make sure that we fill in the entire roof, and then we add all windows where we want them. So that's what we're gonna start with. So just making sure that we can add in all of this. And of course, now the good thing is that if you're in doubt, you can look over to the other A-frame for your reference. So even if you don't want to, you know, continue to rewatch what we just done, you can just kind of watch that again, or, you know, see if they match up. But yeah, at least for the windows, it should be relatively easy. So just want to fill in this entire roof, which again, the roofs are always the easiest part on A-frame because you can just kind of walk around on them. So it's not too difficult to place these in. And we can bring that all the way back down on this side. Of course, now is the time where we want to match the windows. The easiest part is to start here at the top, because then you can kind of just match them up. So we want to have that window, leave a gap of 4, and then we can have the other window. And with 4, I mean 2 by 2, of course. Then we can do the same thing over here. We can just kind of take a peek. Okay, that's where the window needs to start. We can have this one 2 by 3, then leave 2 by 2 open, and then bring in this window all the way like that. And then one more, of course, over here. We want to make sure that we match up this window as well. And then again, we can kind of follow that shape and add in all of those windows, which will give us our natural light on the inside. And now it's just a matter of copying exactly what we've done on the other side. So with these walls on the inside, of course, we have 4 there, 1 here, 1 there, 4 more here. And then, of course, the actual supports. But I've already shown all of that. So, in doubt, you can either, well, rewatch that part. Or, of course, just check the part of the A-frame that you've already completed. But yeah, basically, we want to make sure that we add all of these supportive beams that we just made over here on this A-frame too. So, we'll do that first. And I'll see you back afterwards. Alright, so now we should have 2 A-frames with all of those supportive beams in place, which already brings this base to look a lot nicer. Now we're going to work on the entrances here at the bottom layer. They're quite straightforward, so we're going to start here on this side. We're going to be building a wall here, so we want to have a slope wall there, then some full walls, and we can build this one up until it's 3 high. We can, of course, add in our slope walls to follow the shape. Then we can actually have a nice large wall over here. We can fill that in, and we can have another large wall right next to that. We'll do the same thing here on the other side. So we can start shaping up this build like this. Have the 2 large walls. And then, of course, fill in those final bits with our slope walls, which also means we can change all of this to some nice windows so that we can still see into the A-frame. I think that is quite nice. Again, lots of natural light to work with whilst you're doing all your breeding work. And now we're going to work here on the entrance. And for the entrance, we're going to locate these foundations, and we're going to remove these 6. So just behind the wall, just the gap that is left over, you want to remove those 6 foundations. We want to take out our triangle ones, turn them into the quarters, have 2 over there and 2 over here. Then we can bring out those normal foundations again, and now there should still be 5 left right there in the middle. What we want to do there is bring out our cellar door, a behemoth cellar door, and we can actually go for the garage door variant. Should be able to snap that right over there. And then we can have some pillars going up at the side. Same over here. Of course, not inside of the actual gateway. And we want to do some pillars over there too. So we're basically making a nice little frame here for the entrance. Of course, we want to take out all quarter walls. Build those all the way up inside of those pillars, and the same thing here on the opposite side. Now you can choose whether you want to keep the cellar door as is, but actually using the glass skin on it also works, and it turns it into a very big window that will open once you get close to it, which is quite cool. So yeah, that will be the entrance over here, and of course we have to do that 3 more times. So we can kind of combine this a little bit. We start by adding in these walls. We can do that on all of these places. And of course, we're doing it for all of the different sides. So we first of all are just going to do the normal wall parts that we'll have up here. And of course, we have another one back here too. Kind of combining all of these in, and that means that we have plenty of entrances. Then we can take out all large walls. We can have 2 of them, of course, next to the shape that we've just created. We'll do the same over here. There we go. And then of course we have that one singular wall that we still need to raise this by, and we can of course fill this all in with those slope walls. So that's what we want to do now. Kind of finish all of these walls. Same over here. Just to kind of frame all of these entrances that we're making. And yeah, I just found it a lot more convenient to make sure that you have an entrance on all sides. Of course, if you want to only have entrances on one side, for example, if you're against the cliff for something. You can also, of course, just fill in the entire wall and make it a mirror. But yeah, we want to fill this all in. We can have all pillars at the very end too. There we go. And the same over here. Then, of course, we can take out these 6 foundations in the middle. And we'll do that for all of these so that we can have, of course, those nice cellar doors right there in the middle again. So we're going to take all of these out. There we go. Then, of course, we'll need our quarter bits at the very end. The same for these sides here, as well as over here on the front. And then we can take out our full foundation again and fill in the middle 5. Just so that we basically change the snap point that we need for the cellar door. There we go. And now that we have this, we can, of course, take out those cellar doors. Snap one right here, one right here. And then finally one right over here. And then, of course, now that we've done that, we want to make sure that we get our pillars in place. Probably easiest to go from the bottom up. And once again, we want to do this for all of them, of course. So we can kind of just fill that all in. And then the final one over here. Bring up those pillars. Bring up those pillars over here. And then, of course, the final part is getting these quarter walls in the gap. Quarter walls in this gap. And then, of course, we also want to change these into windows. So then we have this side complete. With our big windows, we can do the same over here. And over here. Creating nice big windows, letting in all the light. And of course, we also still need to add in our little quarter walls here to kind of frame up the gate. Also helps you find the gate. You know, if it's a big glass wall, it can be hard to spot where the entrance is, but now you will instantly know it's right there in the middle. And then, of course, over here, we want to also bring up these quarters. Same up here. All the way up. And then finally, of course, change these into the windows. And then over that side too. There we go. So yeah, now we have all of the entrances to the bottoms of the A-frames on all of the different sides. Now we're getting pretty far with the A-frames already, of course. We're gonna go in over here, so the top entrance, and we want to take out our stairs. So we want to actually have a stair coming down from that layer into the main A-frame. We'll have some railings around the side. We can have some half railings over here. You do have to flip them because for some reason they always spawn the opposite way around. But yeah, that's going to be the nice entrance. Then we can actually bring over our ceilings across here so that we can actually reach them all. And then here in the middle, you can bring down these stairs by 2. And then we can, of course, make sure that we build this up to meet the stairs. So now it's connected to the middle part, which already had the stairs. So all of the different layers are now also accessible by foot. We want to have those half railings there and our full railings over here. Of course, we can have railings along the side of the staircase. So now that you can get up here, we definitely also want to just fill in this next layer. So this is going to be the next layer of the A-frame that we can use as anything really. Crafting room, storage, bedrooms, etc., you name it. You can all easily do it up here and still have plenty of room for breeding down below. So yeah, we want to just fill in this entire floor. There we go. Which instantly gives us a whole new layer to work with. Then here on the inside, we want to make sure that we create these walls. Again, you can use secret doors if you want to hide anything beneath or behind it, but it's just easier to work with some walls that go up straight so you can actually place things against them. So yeah, that's the walls for all of the different sides. Then of course, at the very end here, we can also add in some walls because we want to create some lovely windows. So we want to just fill in this shape just like this, and then we can create a beautiful window over here. We can do the same thing on the opposite side and create another beautiful window. And that is how we kind of complete this top section. If you want a separate bedroom, what you can of course do is add another wall in here. Then you want to do some quarter walls there in the middle so that we can have a central door. So yeah, basically you just want to fill in a wall like this if you want a separate bedroom. That's what I would do, at least, or that's what I did. But of course, that is optional if you want it or not. You can, of course, keep the big hall if you prefer that. But yeah, now you just have like a separate room that is more suited for a bedroom kind of feeling. Then, of course, we can go all the way to the other side of the build because we need to do the same thing over here for this side. So once again, we want to make sure that we have these staircases come down. We have some railings around the side here, and once we have that, of course, we can connect these ceilings. Let's just do the entire floor right away whilst we have the ceilings out anyway, so we can do this all the way over. And again, you could create another separate room on this side if you really wanted to, but yeah, it depends on how many different rooms you need. You can also, of course, use one of these as like a bigger crafting and storage room if you want to. And it does actually fit a replicator and even an industrial forge up here if you place them the right way. So even those bigger structures you can actually fit up here, which is quite convenient because then you can keep the bottom layer mostly or entirely for breeding, which is of course quite nice to have that all built into your base. But yeah, we'll fill in these walls again, of course, to make it a little bit more usable. Then we can add the actual windows at the end for both of these. And then, of course, finishing with the slab walls to bring in the shape on both ends. There we go. And change them to our window skin so the light can keep coming in. There we go. And we can, of course, enjoy the incredible views of our surroundings. Now we just need to also add these stairs over here, of course. Make them go down by 2. And then make these ceilings meet them. Have a little half railings there and our normal railings along these sides. There we go. So yeah, now we have access to all of these separate rooms, to the rooftop, all connected through this middle way, which is quite convenient, of course, that everything kind of comes together here. Now we have most of the internal structures in order now that we've done all that, but we still need to finish these hallways down here. We want to take out all gateways. We want to have a gateway here, and we want to have a gateway on the opposite side. And of course, you can definitely add in the gates themselves, although I prefer to make them out of glass. Just, I think, is a nice little touch because you can still see. But yeah, of course, personal preference whether you want that or not. What we also want to do here is actually continue these roofs. So we want to do that for both of these. So they can continue all the way until they run into the ceilings of the next layer. Then over here on the inside, what we want to do is add our slope walls. It's quite easy, but we also want to do that for this spot. So what you can actually do over here is change this to a full wall, since we have the staircase going up on that side. Of course, we want to then have 2 railings there. We don't need anything here, of course, and then we can fill in these inside. So we want to make sure that we have all slope walls going up. Same over here, just like that. And then of course we can fill in our actual walls. We can also fill in those walls, and there we go. Then we have the entrance here to the bridging part, and connected it up all the way to the A-frame. It looks nice now from both sides, and you can still use the staircase, of course, to get up to the other side, which means we want to do the same thing over here. We want to have a slope wall there, slope wall here, and have one here. Railings on top, of course, and then we can go over to the inside of the A-frame. We want to have our slope walls coming up along the side of this roof. Same over here, and then just fill in these pieces, fill in that part, and then finally fill in those, so that we also have it completed over here, which now means that this entire middle section is done. Of course, don't forget to add the keypads and the key codes if you want to open the windows like that. We can get up to this layer where you have a bunch of space, which you can also use to reach all of these side parts. You can build your bedrooms if you want to, and we have the same bigger room over here, and of course access to our rooftop. And if you want a greenhouse on top, that's the final addition we'll make. All right, so first up, we'll shape up the little greenhouse that we'll have. We want to find the middle of this window section, and then one from the end is where we want to place down our roofs. We want to go up by 3, and then we want to bring it down by 3 again. And we can then do the same thing here on the other side. So again, we want to have 3 going up and 3 coming down on the opposite side. Then in between that, of course, we're going to have to fill it all in with our greenhouse glass roofs. We can of course still use the skins to make it look nicer. So for example, if you want clearer glass, you can of course still use that. Personally, I would skin the sides and the top in the same thing, so that the structure looks a little bit stronger. And then of course we can do the same thing here on the opposite side, filling in our greenhouse roofs, so that we have the basic structure of the greenhouse in place over here. And then of course we want to do the inside. Now again, playing around with skins, you could actually have these made out of greenhouse glass, so that you still get of course all of the effectiveness on the inside, but you can skin these differently than the inside ones to still get a little bit more of a design going. So we can have a full wall there, and then we can have some doors right next to it. And of course we can have our slope walls in here, so that we could, for example, still make this the very clear glass, and then you can skin this into something differently to make it match. Then of course on the other side we want to repeat that process. So again, we're gonna have our slope walls go in a shape like this, and then of course on this side it's way easier because we can just have normal walls, and we can have our slope walls to fit the shape, change those to the windows, and there we go. We have a little greenhouse on the top of our build, and a third little A-frame to match the rest of our aesthetic. Then a few final details here on the outside is just adding some railings here on this corner, just to make that a little bit nicer. And we can do the same thing here over on the opposite side, just so that this kind of entrance area also is nice. But this is a great place to add a transmitter, teleporter, stuff like that, so that it is easily accessible but isn't necessarily inside of your base. Then of course you can transform this build even further by using more custom cosmetics. We've already skinned all of the windows, of course, that we have in place using Architecture's Paradise and the glass texture that is in there. And as you can see, that works on pretty much everything. But if you want to get the full look of the build, there's a few more changes we need to make. First of all, from Modern Structures, you want to skin these pillars as well as these quarter walls with the matte black skin. That's same for all of the pillars actually that we have used, all those matte black skins. And you can also use them here on the railings as well as the railings on the very top of the roof. For the rest of these beams, the supportive beams that we've made, we can all use the LF seamless wall skin. As you can see, it's a very nice and clean texture. We can also use that on the roof here. We can use that on these beams on the side. You can actually use it for all of the normal roofs as well, as you can see, but then paint it with a bit of black paint so that it has a nice contrast with the white structures. But you can see that works very well, and it's all free cosmetics. Then also from Arkitect's Paradise, we have this beautiful wood texture. So that is this fine wood texture that you want to use to get those look, which is quite nice. Then for the inside on the ground floor, we have used the rubber tile skins from Architecture's Paradise. So that is this ground floor, which is quite good. And then here on the outside, we've used the granite skin, which is also from Architecture's Paradise. So most of the things are from that same pack, which is quite nice to have a little bit of a different look here on the outside. And then the only thing that differs is on the inside, because we also have some of the Lost Colony skins, or you could just keep these as tech, to be honest. And then this floor here is from the Modern Structures again, which is very, very nice. I did keep the beams seamless though, so that you have those dividing lines continuing, but the floor is pretty nice to have here in the middle and the top levels of the A-frame. So yeah, if you want to blend those in, that's what you do. The rest is pretty straightforward. The entire middle section, all of the walls are made out of the fine wood. The A-frame itself, it's all made out of the seamless skin. So you have the more modern look, and you have the nice contrast between all of them. But yeah, that pretty much is it. That's how you build this ultimate A-frame base that has plenty of space for your breeding, plenty of storage and crafting space. And if you want to see a full tour, check out the video that I already made on it if you want some inspiration for the layout of the base itself. As always, if you enjoy seeing these types of build tutorials and you want to continue to see more, make sure to like the video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Really helps me out a lot, and I really do appreciate all the support. And of course, feel free to leave your suggestions for future builds you'd like to see down in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you next time. Goodbye.